make sure you subscribe, click that little bell icon to be notified of upcoming videos, support us on Patreon, like us on Facebook and Instagram at Model Railroad Techniques. Please have a look at my new website, www.modelrailroadtechniques.com. Hi, this is Darren from MRT and welcome back. Bit of a change of pace for the channel in the upcoming months. I'll be interviewing a number of craftsman kit manufacturers and other content creators on the back of the Craftsman Courtyard online train show. So the first one kicking it off is Stephen Milley from Rail Scale Models. Make sure you listen around towards the end because he's announcing a new kit that he's looking at doing. So without further ado, let's get started. So welcome aboard, Stephen from Rail Scale Models. So your website, if my understanding is correct, Stephen, is www.rail-scale-models.com. And you can find all your lovely products here. So I suppose the first thing I'm very interested in, I always love to hear about individuals' modelling stories and their background to this great hobby of ours. So what could you tell me about that?
Well, I mean, like most of us in the hobby, we probably saw it as, as we were kids, and I did. I was kind of an HO scaler, just, the toy train running around the living room floor. Never really had a layout just because I didn't really have the insight into putting together a full layout that was a permanent layout and something like that. But I always enjoyed it. I did have a friend who was also into it, and we would go and visit a person in our neighborhood who had a big scale model railroad in his basement, and that's really kind of how we got our insight into the hobby. Got away from it like a lot of folks do during middle school, high school, college years. But then when I got to be out of college and had a full-time job living in Michigan, I started to get back into the hobby and would go around to the local train shows and visit with the local model railroad club. And that's how I kind of got back into the hobby. And, started reading. I built a small layout in the basement of my condo up in Michigan. And that's how I kind of got back into it, I guess I should say.
Yeah, it's a common thread, isn't it? It's sort of my journey as well. You sort of started out as a young child from a parents, grandparents, or to get into it, and then sort of those upper school girls and cars come into it and sort of leave it to the wayside a little bit, and then you establish yourself in life and work out what direction you are going, and then you sort of, I came back to it, all boots and all. So as I said, I love this hobby. So I can't get enough of it, to be quite honest with you. So moving forward from your roots in the hobby, obviously you now got into the manufacturing side with Craftsman kits. Tell us about how that journey sort of came about.
So I've probably, 15 years ago, I started to kind of discover the world of craftsman structures and craftsman kits. And that interested me. It was, of course, very scary looking at one of the big boxes and saying, what the heck is in that box that is creating this structure? So I think I ended up buying my first one, probably a micro scale model. Those are so readily available at train shows, and there's a lot of really nice structure kits. That was probably the first one that I probably bought myself. And then you open the box and it's just a world of really cool stuff and the instruction booklets are so many pages long, and I'm like, well, this is a real task. So that was my interest kind of steered towards craftsman structure kits. And then I discovered fine scale miniatures, and you discover South River, and you discover Sierra West. And then I actually met Jeff Grove with Carolina Craftsman Kits at one of the craftsman structure shows up in New England. I would go to those periodically, and of course they're catering to that niche of the hobby. So my interest in the craftsman kits has been there for quite a while. And it was probably 5 years ago I started thinking about, I want to do something in the hobby as kind of an early retirement venture. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew I wanted to find something that would allow me to enjoy the part of the hobby that I like, and then also find a way to maybe make a little bit of income so that when I do retire, I could kind of combine those two worlds. And I've become friends with Jeff Grove at Carolina Craftsman Kits for ever since we first started to know each other, probably 10, 12 years ago. And every time I saw Jeff, he would always tell me the same story about how he's really busy and he's retired and he doesn't want to be so busy running the laser. And about 4 years ago, I decided to ask him the question, do you want some help or would you be interested in somebody helping you out? And he said, well, if you get a laser cutter, I can give you some work. And that pretty much was it. That's where it started. I went and researched the Epilogue lasers, which was his recommendation. I made a purchase, made a pretty significant investment, said, all right, this is the way I'm going to go. And so the first things I started doing was just cutting stuff for Jeff for his business. And that was almost 4 years ago to the day. It'll be end of April will be my 4 year, will mark my 4 year anniversary with rail scale models. And, I ventured out to producing my own kits, and Jeff and I have an arrangement where I can produce some of his designs in N scale, which has been really good for my business, is because N scalers don't have a lot of craftsman structure providers.
Sure, yeah.
So I've gone into that niche, and they really enjoy that I do that for them. I started getting into more custom structure design and laser cutting for whether it's a one-off structure for somebody or I do some design and cutting for other manufacturers who don't have a laser. So I offer quite a variety of services. So that kept me busy for the first couple of years. And then I really expanded the business when I discovered that the Rusty Stumps business was for sale. And I've known Walt at Rusty Stumps also for many years. And I called him up and asked him about what he was interested in, what he was looking for the sale of his business. And we chatted for a long time. And he had a huge lineup of laser cut detail parts for the scratch builder, like windows and doors and roofing shingles and fences and pallets and crates, and there's hundreds of items. And for me, I saw that as a kind of a unique part of the business, that it allows me to run the laser, it allows me to sell product, and the biggest thing was just the name recognition that I could get from taking over the Rusty Stumps business.
Sure.
So that was probably 2.5 years ago that happened, and since then it really did change my business. It's exploded in terms of growth and exposure.
Yeah.
And so I cut those laser cut detail parts every day, and it's keeps me very busy. And that really was how rail scale models got started those first couple of years, and then growing into really a broad lineup of products.
Yeah, sure. I've Rusty Stumps was obviously some specific questions I was going to ask you around that, and it's quite pertinent. You obviously bring that up.
Sure.
So that's according to your website, reasonably new acquisition within the last 12 months or so. And I've as I said, I started researching this a number of days ago, your website, and the amount of stuff on there is I've never seen it in another website for one manufacturer, so to speak. Obviously, if you go dig into some of what I'm going to call the mainstream websites, which stock everyone's brands, but credit to yourself, Stephen. I'll tell you that right now, that the amount of products on this website is phenomenal. You can get lost in this website, and I've only touched the tip of the iceberg. I think probably the best phrase when I started looking at the types of products that you are stocking. It's phenomenal. So with the Rusty Stumps side of things, so I do see that some of them are, obviously when you acquired that business, he still had a number of package items ready to go, and you're just on selling them but then you've also made mention every day you're cutting new new detail parts. Can you that's sort of an ongoing evolution of rail scale at this point in time, that you got some older products that Rusty Stumps initially had cut, and now you've got to carry on with the mantle, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'll break it down. I break the Rusty Stumps business down into two parts. There's the laser cut details, which there's the windows and doors and roofing shingles and whatnot. There's hundreds of different items to choose from, and it's across all the scales. And then the second piece of it is the Craftsman structure kits. So the acquisition actually occurred in two parts as well. I initially bought the laser cut details business, and Walt was going to keep the Craftsman kits part of the business. And so we started out with that. And then it must have been a year later, he called me up and said he was ready to sell the Craftsman structure portion of the business as well. So I took that as kind of a phase two. So the way the details work is I don't stock any inventory for the detail parts. There's just too much variation.
Sure.
It would be impossible to stock all the different varieties of combinations of options that I offer. As far as for roofing shingles, I have 15 different colors to choose from for roofing.
I did notice that, yeah.
With adhesive backing or without adhesive backing.
Sure.
Windows and doors are cut on 2 or 3 different types of material, and they can be with adhesive backing or without adhesive backing.
Sure.
So it just goes on. And then that's across like 4 or 5 different scales. So all the orders that come in for detail parts, I cut to order.
Sure.
Right off the laser within a couple of days. Now the Craftsman structure kits are a little bit of a different business. I do run small batches of those, and I'll package them up and I'll put them on the shelves. And that's both for my own rail scale model designs as well as the Rusty Stumps designs that I've acquired through that acquisition. But I did get some inventory with the purchase, and that I had to have had those on the shelves, and they've steadily sold out. And
sure.
Part of my work now is I'm calling it remastering and re-releasing the structure kits from the Rusty Stumps business.
Yep.
But that takes a lot of work. As I rebrand all the items, I redo the instruction manual, and repack everything up and put it into a rail scale models box.
Sure.
That's a lot of work.
That was sort of the next question I was going to ask. I think it was on HO Scale Customs recently. You mentioned about the remastering of these items, so to speak. It's probably a very excellent phrase, I think, of remastering, coming from a music background as well. But so I'm assuming what you mean by that is not only are you putting those designs into your own CAD program, but you're adding your own flair to that basic kit as well. So whether you add something to detail parts or other, can you? What are you looking at doing there?
So with the Rusty Stumps kits, they're pretty complete, and they're really well done. So there's not a tremendous amount of work I have to do as far as recreating any of the CAD work or anything like that. I do spend some time rebranding, because everything is branded as Rusty Stumps. But there's already a ton of detail parts that come with these kits, and so fortunately I'm still able to get those from Walt for the kits, and so I stock some of those, and
sure.
And I'll package those with the structure kits. But when we get into discussion about the acquisition of Railway Design Associates, there's a lot more activity I'm doing there with remastering and re-releasing those kits. Those are the plastic injection molded kits.
Yep, sure.
So when we're ready to transition to that topic, then I can describe what I'm doing there.
Yeah, that's number 8. It's leading in nicely. So no, that's fine. That's fine. It's just a rough structure, and if we jump around, that's fine. I'll follow it. So, I've heard many sort of people talk about the RDA kit, that it's a little bit of an American icon by the sounds of it. Back in the day, that. Yes. It's one of those kits. Some people, I liken it to, I'm sure you have your car wars. It was one of the better phrase over in the United States. Some people like one particular car, one like another, and then it's just like they're
discussions around that.
Sure.
No different from Australia. It appears that craftsman kits and plastic kits could be seen a little bit similar. However, I think it's quite interesting for your business model that you are stocking both, and particularly this, as I've pointed out, an institution in American injection molded kits. So I've had a look at some of these kits, and the ones that sort of took my eye are the Eastern Hill Fishermen's Co-op. Is a very impressive looking kit, and for its price, it's amazing. Because it's quite a large kit by the looks of it. So
it is.
So
it is large.
So as I said, I've never built one of these kits, but it appears that by what people are saying, there's a reasonable ease of construction. Was that sort of a consideration when you acquired the RDA brand to sort of, okay, I've got craftsman kits of varying grades of difficulty, so to speak, right the way through to injection molded, which are traditionally an easier kit to build?
Yeah, that came into my mind quite clearly when I was considering the acquisition of RDA. I was really looking for a way to broaden my customer base. And it's true, some modelers who build wood structure kits don't have any interest in building plastic structure kits. And then there is a very large audience that builds plastic structure kits and has no interest in building wood craftsman kits. So I saw it as a real nice opportunity to expand my customer base. The RDA company has been around for 30 years, and there is a lot of history there.
Yeah.
And their kits are fantastic. Now, they're not the plastic injection molded kit that like Walthers is putting out.
Sure.
They're more like I wouldn't even say they're like a DPM kit, because even the DPMs are they're similar to DPMs, but they're on a bigger scale. The structures are larger. They have a very kind of unique look and feel to them, very New Englandy. But like any of those style plastic kits, there are certain things that if you pay close attention to as a builder, you can get these things to look like any wonderful craftsman kit that some of the best modelers in the world will build up. And those details are, how do you put the corners together, and how do you make sure you got good fit and a good overlap around the corners. And painting is a skill that is not difficult to learn. And if you do a really nice painting job on a plastic kit, no one would ever be able to tell that it wasn't a wood kit or a plaster kit.
No, that's right. That's right. I was gonna.
So the other big thing, if I could let me just kind of cover one more little piece of that. The other big thing about the RDA structure kits is they are traditionally pretty simple as far as what comes in the box.
Sure.
And I saw that as an opportunity to, some people have called it a hybrid, take a hybrid approach and combine some laser cut detail components with the traditional plastic kit and really create a whole new product offering that kind of merges the two worlds of the wood craftsman builder and the plastic injection molded kit, and really make some nice unique offerings.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because I as I said, I'm predominantly a European modeler, but you're thinking, why am I talking to an American about American kits? As I pointed out before, I think that I've got a lot to learn from this niche, and I thoroughly enjoyed it at this point in time. Just talking to yourself, Jeff Grove, I'm literally catching up with him in an hour's time. So I think there's a lot to be said for what you just said about the RDA and the hybrid kit side of things, because the RDA kits are very similar to what I can see what the European manufacturers bring out. They've got some craftsman elements to them, particularly there's a German brand called Bush that I've built some of their kits. So they've got some of the wood paneling and the brass etch and the detail parts, but they've also got injection molded walls as well. So I can sort of liken what you're trying to do there, and I think that's quite exciting that's where that you want to head the RDA kit, because I'll tell you right now, by looking at that kit that I mentioned before, the Eastern Hills, I'm building a rather large wharf scene, and I think that will fit beautifully on that, even though I'm running European trains past it, because it's very European looking building to me. So that's quite exciting, and I think watch this space by what you're saying, because you've got many things in store for it.
Yeah, so speaking of that Fisherman's Wharf, it's a huge structure. It's close to 16 inches in length.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've talked about with that structure kit is it really would make a great background flat type of a kit. And one of my plans was to take that structure and basically slice it down the long direction down the middle and offer it up as a background flat.
Sure.
And I've actually I'm in the middle of doing that, and I've got some new things that I'm going to be adding to it with some new signage. I like to add, different billboard graphics and stuff like that.
Sure.
But that's going to be coming out pretty soon.
Yep.
So, it's such a huge structure. It makes sense to put it as a background kit. So, so that one's going to be coming out soon.
So just on that kit, slicing it down the middle, I'm assuming the front end and the back end are two totally different looking facades, for want of a better phrase. So it's quite interesting that you bring that up. So the modeler could literally, if it literally is sitting against the backdrop, could buy the complete kit, manufacture and cut it up themselves, and they've got 32 inches of background kit as effectively as well. So, and that would be with the the same looking brick style, and that's got me a little bit excited.
Yeah, those large RDA structures, they're actually almost like a modular build. Sure. They do come in sections, and depending on the structure kit that you're looking at, it's just 2, 4, or 8 sections that make up the whole structure. So these structure kits really do lend themselves well to kit bashing.
Yep. Now,
one of the structures that I just finished with the RDA lineup that I completely redid the assembly instructions. I completely redesigned some laser cut components. Is the big not big, I guess it's a smaller version of a roundhouse. It's a 3-stall roundhouse. Just finished that one up a couple of weeks ago, but this is a really good example of the hybrid approach. I've re-engineered, redesigned the floor components and the roof components and all the windows and doors. They're all now laser cut, whereas before it was styrene and it was plastic injection molded windows that sometimes didn't fit exactly into the opening. So I've redone all of that.
Now I'm pretty sure, tell me if I'm wrong, did I hear also correctly that particular stone roundhouse you are going to sell in modules as well? So you buy the initial 3, you can buy a 6 and join it together with obviously some minor modification. Is that something that you're still looking at doing, or are doing, I should say?
Yeah, I am going to have what I call a bay by bay expansion kit, where if you buy the base kit of 3 bays, 3 stalls, the bay by bay expansion kit literally just drops right in the middle of any of the 2 sections.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
So the floor will be designed, so there's some puzzle pieces that are on the floor to make sure it all fits together. So it literally would be make a gap, drop the expansion bays in, and you can add as many as you want.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea.
By one. I don't have that listed on the website just yet, but I was working on it just the other day, so it will be available.
Sure. That's fantastic. So, custom work. We briefly touched on you enjoy custom work because you love running this laser that you've probably spent a substantial amount of money on. So, you obviously I've looked on your website yet again. There's doors, windows, structures. So, someone comes to you and say, I want to build this particular structure, and obviously you go through, depending on how much of the design they have done, I suppose, to help you out. Is it are you willing to take on any design, or you go, oh no, I don't think I've got time at this point in time to do that particular design? But
Well, I guess I'll answer both as yes. Yes, I'll
yeah,
take on pretty much any design,
sure,
and yes, I'm loaded to the gills right now.
yeah, I can imagine.
Um, yeah, I pretty much can offer pretty much any amount of work that's required. I get a photo. I can get a single photo from somebody,
Yeah,
and they'll say, "Can you make a structure kit of this for me?"
sure,
All the way to the other extreme where somebody has already done all the design work in their own. Usually, it's Corel Draw. That seems to be the most popular one of folks doing their own design work, and they'll just ask me to cut it up in pieces and send it back to them, and that's
yeah,
fine too. I can do any within that range. I've worked from full scale architectural drawings. I've worked from, like I said, photos. I've worked from, hey, there's a building on Google Maps. Can you go here and look at it and build up a structure for me?
sure,
So, that's part of the business that I really enjoy is the design work
yeah,
and kind of the challenge of how do I take this full scale prototype structure and convert it down to whatever scale they want to do it in, N
sure,
scale, HO scale, or O scale,
yeah,
and how do I convert it into a buildable model that represents a good replica of the prototype, but
sure,
is easily put together in a scale model.
yeah, sure. And I'm
And I
assuming
really enjoy doing that.
yeah, because you've got an engineering background. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm
Yeah,
a manufacturing industrial engineer
sure,
for 30 years, and
yep,
I've been spent a lot of time working in CAD, and I spend a lot of time with kind of facility engineering
sure.
and plant layout in the manufacturing world. So it kind of ties in nicely with
It
with
does.
this kind of
No,
business.
that's awesome. So I'm assuming when you take on a commission for someone, I'm assuming in the back of your mind is ticking away that, or I could mass produce that model because I think other people than this individual would like it. So is that something for it's a consideration as well? And obviously there's a process. I'm assuming once during the planning phase that obviously has to be economically viable to make the kit to mass produce, so to speak. So is that something that is in the forefront of your mind when you are taking on these commissions?
Yeah, absolutely. And usually I offer it as an option to the customer if they're willing to allow me to use it as a structure kit to offer in my business, then they pay a different price because
Oh,
I
I see.
can I
Sure,
can recover some of my investment through
sure,
the sales of a new kit.
sure,
If it's a one-off and it's it's just a single build or a single model, then I need to get my investment back on the design side. Um, and so usually folks are willing to allow me to do that.
yeah, yeah,
Occasionally there'll be a request for a structure kit that I just don't feel is going to be marketable,
yeah,
and
sure,
we'll have that
sure,
conversation.
yeah, yeah,
And my prices are usually pretty good. I do it partly because I enjoy doing it, and
yeah.
partly because I like seeing people's dreams of a certain structure being converted to scale
Coming
model
alive.
for them.
Yeah, sure, sure. No, that's that. This Jeff Grover CCK fame, as we all know, this it's got this man seems to be everywhere at the moment. Everywhere I'm looking, he's got something on in the pipeline. So, as you've
Right.
touched on, you've done a lot of work with each other, I suppose, and you did
Yep. Sure.
cutting initially. So would it be fair for me to say that he is a major influence in you and your business in regards to the
Oh,
manufacturing side of thing
absolutely.
anyway? So is there any collaborations with Jeff in the pipeline? Bit
Yeah,
like,
we work together on a lot of stuff. Um,
sure,
I've done some structure designs for him. Um, he's actually we talked about that background flat for the new RDA
sure.
background flat. He actually is building it up the prototype model for me.
Oh, lovely.
Um, yeah, we go back and forth on a lot of things.
Yep,
We collaborate on different structure kits that we might want to bring to the market, and
sure.
he's got a tremendous name recognition and a
He
huge
does.
customer base.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I might do some design work on a structure, and he'll actually sell the kit through his business.
Sure.
It's a win-win for us.
Sure. Sure.
I get some income through the design and production, and he gets income through the sale of the kit.
Yeah.
We've done a few of those,
Oh, fantastic.
but then we collaborate on a lot of stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, as we've already touched on, I don't want to dwell on the world events because they're all a little bit depressing right now, I think. So, we won't bore people with that. But Timonium show, which I was looking forward to, obviously I wouldn't have been able to get to it. However, I was looking at doing something very similar to this anyway to promote it, to do my little bit for giving back to people that have helped me, including Jeff, yourself, Jimmy Dignan, and the like, just to say, you know what, this is a really nice niche of the hobby that people need to get on board with and support these guys and girls who are making these kits for us to spend so much time on and enjoyment effectively. So, is there any products that you are looking at exclusively releasing for the Timonium show in May? Please tell me if there's if you can't answer that question, I can understand that. But
yeah, I have a new kit in the works right now, and the May Timonium show would have been a great place to release it.
Sure.
It actually comes from a customer of mine up in New York who I work with a lot. He's an N-scale modeler, so I do some N-scale stuff for him. And he had a photo of a very old, 1910, 1915, something like that.
Sure.
A wind-powered rolling mill.
Oh, okay.
And so it's pretty, run down at this point, but we wanted to turn it into a structure kit just because it's very unique. And he's actually building up the prototype structure for me right now.
Sure.
I've done all the design work, and he's going to build the prototype model for me, or the pilot model, if you will, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm going to try to produce that in, for sure, N scale and HO scale, and we'll see if I go to S scale or O scale as well.
Right. Okay. So I think I was looking
But it'll be very unique. It'll be very unique.
I was looking on Facebook just this morning, and I think something popped up that you put on there. Let me have a look if I can find it. There's a design that you put up for a building that... here it is. CAD work is fun, and you've put up a new design. Yeah. So can you tell us about that particular structure and what... Obviously, it's going to start in HO. Or
all right, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear it first. You'll be the first one to hear about this.
Exclusive.
A structure. Yeah, that's right. This is a structure that came to me from a customer who wanted a unique structure because he has a friend who grew up in the town where this passenger station stood.
Sure.
And it doesn't exist anymore. There's only a handful of postcards that show the image of this structure.
Oh, wow.
And it's a big brick passenger depot.
Yeah.
It's got a crazy, interesting roof line on it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. That's fantastic.
And so it's actually was based in the state of Delaware, and it was on the Pennsylvania Railroad.
Sure.
And so I am literally just finishing up tonight on the CAD design work, and then I am going to run my first run on the laser to get a pilot model started, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's what sort of dimensions is that building? It looks rather large, I would say.
It is large. In HO scale, if I remember right, it was about just shy of 12 inches across.
Sure. Yeah.
And about 5 or 6 inches deep.
Wow.
And that's, the base. It's going to sit on a scribed plank board as the part of the base.
Sure.
So that's the dimensions of the base. It's a big structure.
Yeah. What sort of roofing material is that? Like would you build with that?
It's actually going to be raised seam metal roofing.
Right.
Standing seam metal roofing.
Sure.
That was what was on the prototype.
Yeah. Okay. That's an impressive looking structure. That roof line is,
Yeah,
yeah, that's very nice. Very nice.
it was a challenge, very big challenge on the design just because of the crazy roof line. And, and again, I have no architectural drawings to work from. I just base it on, okay, that window looks like it's about this size, and I
Sure.
go from there.
Yeah, okay. I can just the CAD drawing. Obviously, it's some sort of scale that's come across onto Facebook here, and I'm just looking at the the windows, the double doors, and thinking, oh, that's got quite a facade to it. So that's which led on to my next question: what's in the pipeline? But we've just answered that. So I think we've been going for 37 minutes now. I think I initially told you 5 or 10 minutes, so it's been a lovely conversation we've had. So, Stephen Milley, you're a jack of all trades. I must applaud you for what you are doing for our hobby. You've opened up yourself to explain to a mere mortal like myself that's just getting into this, the craftsman niche, I suppose, and thoroughly enjoying it. And you want to get busy by the looks of it, and probably in your retirement you're going to be even busier, I would think, by the amount of product that you're putting out on this website. As I touched on before, this website is off the charts regarding how much stuff is on there, and I'm, after this call, going to go back in and see what I'm going to order, because I didn't even touch half of it, I think, last night. So I wish to sincerely thank you for taking 40 minutes of your time away from your family as well in an evening in this world that's quite crazy right now. So I thank you very much for that. Is there any parting comments that you wish to make, or any other things you wish to say at this point in time?
Well, I think I really appreciate you reaching out to me and having the interest in what I'm doing at Rail Scale Models. 4 years ago, I would not have dreamed that so quickly I would have such an established part of the hobby, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. Although it keeps me busy, and I know a lot of people are anxious for me to get my projects done, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. My wife is super happy about the progress that I made in it, and she's very supportive of what I'm trying to do, and I just couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think that's a very pertinent point that we need to put a big shout out to our partners, wives, significant others that allow us the time to spend on our hobbies, and particularly the money that this hobby you can spend on it. So I think that's a big shout out to the ladies and gentlemen out there who help us through and allow us so much time and money to spend on this wonderful hobby.
Yeah, agreed.
So thanks again, Stephen Milley from Rail Scale Models, and we'll end the recording there. Make sure you subscribe, click that little bell icon to be notified of upcoming videos. Support us on Patreon, like us on Facebook and Instagram at Model Railroad Technology.